What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this, I want to talk about what's going on with NIO and just a couple of other tickers. I want to break down what Jerome Powell said and how it's affecting the markets, what you should be watching for going into next week because NIO has even more important data. But before I break into all this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I am personally not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire NIO community as a whole. NIO is down 1.65% for the day as of right now. And looking at NIO, as this thing has been dropping a bit, that's because deliveries were not as great as what some investors wanted. However, overall, they're actually quite decent. And I still think that NIO has potential. Just know that this is not the end for NIO because we have earnings coming out in just a couple of days, and that's going to have a bigger effect on the share price. I also want to break down some important things from Jerome Powell. The guy came out and he caused the market to explode. First off, he was talking about like cutting rates right now is very premature, but he did say that some rate hikes could, or at least more rate hikes could come if we get the economic data to suggest that. And he said thus far, there's progress being made when it comes to inflation. He said that the Fed doesn't have any plans to raise rates right now, and he's mentioning the fact that a soft landing is still a possibility. It's still on the table. He basically implied that because of the fact that thus far the economic data is decent, there's no plan for the Fed to raise rates again, and they're most likely going to pause. This could change if we get a hot CPI report right before the FOMC meeting. But as of right now, the economic data has not been showing that that's going to be the case. It looks very unlikely. And the market is expecting now, because of the fact that Powell is saying there's most likely going to be the Fed not raising rates more. He said that we're not going to focus on cutting rates just yet. We're not close to that yet, but he mentioned the possibility that they could do the like first cut as soon as like March if we get the data, but there's no guarantee yet. So they're going to continue to look at it. And then on top of that, Jerome Powell said they're just going to be very, very careful. But he said a soft landing is still taking shape, and the market loved this. So now the market is thinking, and this is the thing that shifted. There's like a 97% chance the Fed pauses now. The market expects the Fed to pause and not raise rates ever again for the rest of the year. And if that's the case, that's bullish for the markets. The market loved to hear that. So the market exploded, and this could add more fuel to the fire. This could help the market pump even more now. And I know that I was talking about a potential pullback coming. That's because at the time I was recording the previous videos, the charts suggested that, not to mention the risks with data. But now that Powell has said what he said, and now that the market's expecting the Fed to pause, and we saw this overall trend just increase, things have to shift. And unfortunately, I have to shift my opinion too. And if we break particular pieces of resistance, my entire analysis would have to shift. The market is very greedy. If we keep going, we could get closer to extreme greed in the future, which shows that there could be more room for upside. But once again, we're at resistance, so we have to see if SPY could break. Market momentum is still extremely greedy. There's no sign of a stopping yet. The put and call positioning is still on extreme greed. It's continuing to drop as we're seeing buyers stepping in. We're seeing Wall Street buying tech. And we might see this, if this were to continue going, even though the market's risky, there's no sign of the market stopping now. And that's because of what Jerome Powell did. So when it comes to NIO, how is NIO doing compared to all of this? I just want to mention on the right side over here, you guys can see the total deliveries were 431,000, which is not bad whatsoever. And they did about 16,000 deliveries for November. If you look at the chart closely, you can see right over here, we have the different months of the year. Let me just zoom out a little bit. Okay, anyways, looking at the chart, you will notice that they did about 16,000 deliveries in November, and we have the chart right over here. Trying to make this a little easier to see. I think that should be a little better. Hopefully, you guys could see. And you could see that for November, we actually did basically the same as October, but compared to other EV companies in China, they're saying that NIO was a little bit lackluster, and this is why NIO ended up selling off a bit. Overall, this is still not that horrible. This is like one of their top six highest deliveries of all time, or top five, I would say. And that's still not bad for NIO. It's just that investors are getting more and more picky, and we need something even better than that from the company. So what's going on is, it didn't necessarily outperform its rivals. Their growth overall was not as big as what many people were expecting. We saw Xpeng do 20,000 deliveries, for example. We saw Li Auto do relatively well, and NIO was the one that only did about 16,000. So that's the reason why investors were just like looking at it differently. And on top of this, their growth was not the same as that of Xpeng, and this is one of the reasons why NIO underperformed, because there's some fears about demand, demand issues. Uh, Going forward, even though that's the case, even though NIO sold off a bit, I just want to call out that NIO has its earnings on Tuesday. On Tuesday, we have NIO's earnings. This could change a lot for the company, so we'll see what is announced and we'll see how they do. Let's hope they do relatively well. When it comes to their deliveries, you can see the numbers right here. They beat last year's numbers, and I think that there is potential for them to do even better. Let's hope we get a strong December, and let's hope that earnings are decent. What's going to be important during the earnings report is going to be their guidance. If we get some good guidance, this could help this thing push. If not, it is what it is. So now when it comes to NIO, what am I seeing? Well, the same thing as before. Even though NIO is weak today, it's still showing some life because not only are we forming like a doji on the daily, but we held $7 very nicely. As long as we hold this thing can rebound. Let's hope it holds $7 from here on out. So one of the things I wanted to ask you guys is, if I was bullish on the stock market, right? And our trend was about to like get some bearish or bullish signals and etc. And then all of a sudden, one day, the next day, there's like a new pandemic that's announced or some really bad news comes out, things could shift and that could force me to change my analysis. Sometimes that happens, not always. And in this case, we were looking like we were about to get a bearish crossover on the PPO. If you look at the chart, this was looking like it was about to turn. And then what happened was today, we broke our high, and this thing ended up breaking the highs that we made on the daily charts back in July of 2023, which is another bullish signal. I also want to add that SPY has a bullish weekly crossover on the PPO now. And because that happened, this tends to be bullish for the chart. It looks like it could continue going. Historically, when we get these pushes, we could actually remain bullish for an extended period of time. So here's the simple plan. I mentioned to you all that I shorted SPY at 458, and I actually took a loss on that because I ended up closing my position. If SPY breaks 460, the next level this thing is going to be pushing to is 467, 465, and 467. We could still be bullish. Now, I know it's not what you want to hear. I know that my analysis is different now because of the new thing that came out from Jerome Powell. And that's a part of trading. Sometimes things like this could happen. Sometimes the market could just pump and pump and pump without stopping. And if it happens, all we could really do is just watch and react. So if we end up failing to break 460, we reject, I could still remain bearish as we have some bearish divergences. But as of right now, because we broke our high, because we broke this high from July, because we're continuing to push up higher, and because Jerome Powell has now given more hope and more fuel for the markets, right, as the market's expecting a pause, unfortunately for the bears, this is a big victory for the bulls. The market loves it, and we have a cup and handle that's starting to play out. So if we break that 460 and we close above it, we're bullish. We're going to see another bull run, and we're going to see SPY just continue higher. It's not what you want to hear. I know. It's like so frustrating, but that's what the chart's now doing. We failed to get that rejection near the July highs, and we're very close to 460. Jerome Powell pumped it like crazy, and the shorts are continuing to get squeezed because the market makers know what we were thinking. So, unfortunately, if we break 460, SPY could remain bullish, and we're going to be looking for a push for 467. If we ended up failing, and we failed to break that high because of the data coming out next week, I could turn bearish. As of right now, the chart has flipped. Jerome Powell has pumped us so hard with so much momentum, so much strength that the market looks bullish for now. Looking at Tesla, okay? Tesla's on a slight uptrend. We have this nice cup and handle like structure, and Tesla held support very nicely. If anything, Tesla has this imbalance to fill. We might see Tesla attempt to go higher and try to push going into next week because it held support, and the market may drag Tesla up after all. So if we break in a hold and get a close above 240, I expect Tesla to try to make its way back up towards these higher levels, and it's not stopping just yet. Jerome Powell has given the fuel for the fire, and he's helping the market even more. Tesla held support. It could push higher. We need to see it break 240, then 242, and we could be back on our way towards 250. If that breaks, 260 is on the table too. And it looks like Jerome Powell has helped the markets completely flip. Apple, first it was looking weak, right? It looks like it was about to get a rejection. Let me just show you what I was talking about. If you look at the daily time frame, Apple was looking weak, and now Apple's starting to show a little bit of life. So if you look at the chart from like right here, right, you can see we had this head and shoulders like pattern. We were coming back down. We're getting this bearish cross on the PPO. It looked bearish. All of a sudden today, big pump thanks to Jerome Powell. Now this looks like it could try to flip. There's no sign of this breaking down now. Jerome Powell has once again gotten in the way of the bears, and we could see Apple try to go up to 192 plus. Thank you, Jerome Powell, for the pump. On the QQQ, this is still looking kind of weak on the daily, but it hasn't actually broken down yet below 388. So unfortunately, we're going to be watching this. This is not looking super strong or super weak. It's kind of in the middle. We're going to be watching resistance at 390. Do we reject off 390 and turn? Because this is looking like it could actually turn since we have a bearish divergence on the weekly. But the QQQ is not necessarily breaking down yet. It still is holding up. And if, excuse me, sorry guys, if tech tries to hold up better, we could see a bounce that's coming. So there is a possibility that the QQQ tries to get back above 390. It could try to hold up. If we get back above 390, we could hold up. If we break above 393, we're going to be bullish. If we lose 388, we turn bearish. As of right now, we're holding up. Apple could help this hold up. Nvda has been dropping quite a bit. It looks kind of weak, but I just want to call out that thanks to Jerome Powell, the 4 hour is still holding above our 200 EMA very nicely. And we have this imbalance up here around this 480 area. If Nvidia bounces here, we're going to be looking for 474 as resistance. If that breaks, it's going to be on its way back up towards 480. Things have flipped because of Powell, and we started to form a bullish divergence on Nvidia. We're holding our 200 EMA nicely, so there's a chance it might actually try to bounce from here. This could be making its way up to 480. I'm sorry, guys, that I kind of flipped on this, but Jerome Powell has come in. He's caused the market to pump, and now Nvidia is holding its EMAs very nicely and showing some signs that it wants to bounce. So if we break, there could be a bounce. If we fail, it is what it is. The VIX tried to break out and it failed. It got a big rejection. There's no sign of the VIX breaking out after all. See, like if you're looking at the VIX, it looked like this thing was about to break out. You can see we got this bullish crossover on the 4 hour. We're starting to curl right here. It looked like it was trying to break out. It was so close, and then the move failed. It failed. Thank you, Jerome Powell. So it is what it is. Even the dollar failed. Dollar failed to get that breakout. So the best thing we could do is just watch these different levels. Sorry about that, guys. Dollar is about to turn bearish again, so it is what it is. All I could really say is that for NIO, with the market pumping, I think NIO is going to range trade between 7 and 7.4 all over again. It could try to hold up for some time. This could even be trying to form like an inverse head and shoulders, but what's going to cause more volatility out of this range is going to be its earnings. So we'll be listening to see how earnings go, and we'll be watching it as time goes on. All right, guys, so that's it for this one. Thank you all so much for listening. I think NIO could hold up for the time being. We're going to be watching to see how the market's impacted by all these different pieces of news. All right, that's it. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys very soon. Thank you, and peace out.